In the blush of dawn, when the horizon trembled with the first golden rays of light, the ancient plateau awoke in a silent symphony of life. Vast stretches of untamed wilderness unfurled beneath the awakening sky, a tapestry of dense, whispering forests, rugged, towering mountains, and sprawling meadows that shimmered with the dew of night's passing chill. This was Earth as it had been eons ago, raw and unyielding, yet inexplicably tender, a cradle of untapped power and mystery. Kaya stood at the edge of her tribe's encampment, her eyes absorbing every detail of the world around her. At 28, her spirit was as fierce as the untamed winds that swept over the plateau, yet her soul held a softness that belied the hardened warrior beneath. Clad in garments crafted from the hides of hunted beasts and adorned with the intricate symbols of her people, she embodied the dual essence of her role, both a protector in battle and a healer in times of quiet despair. The early morning ritual was underway. Tribal elders gathered in a circle around a roaring fire, their voices low and measured as they recited ancient chants that echoed through the crisp air. Young warriors, faces painted with the colors of the earth, prepared themselves for the day with a determined urgency, each heartbeat echoing the rhythm of survival. Amidst these rituals, Kaya moved with the quiet grace of one deeply rooted in her land. Her every step was deliberate, her presence a silent assertion of the timeless bond between her people and the spirit of nature. As the sun climbed higher, casting long, dancing shadows across the rugged terrain, the plateau came alive with the chorus of morning sounds, a cacophony of chirping birds, the rustling of leaves, and the distant murmur of a river winding its way through the valley. Yet, beneath the serene melody of nature, there lingered an unspoken tension, as if the land itself sensed the approaching storm that would soon shatter its fragile peace. Kaya's gaze drifted to the distant peaks, where the sky met the earth in a seamless horizon. It was there, amidst the lofty heights, that the ancient tales foretold of celestial visitors and epic battles, legends passed down through generations. She had heard the murmurs, the warnings embedded in the lore of her ancestors, of a time when the heavens would spill their secrets upon the earth. Though she dared not dwell on such ominous portents, a seed of unease had been sown in her heart. In this primordial dawn, as the world seemed poised on the brink of transformation, Kaya felt a stirring, a call from deep within that transcended the simple act of waking. It was a summons to guard not only the physical well-being of her people, but also the enduring spirit of a way of life intimately entwined with the pulse of the earth. In that moment, the rising sun was more than just a herald of a new day. It was a beacon of hope, resilience, and the promise of a destiny that lay far beyond the boundaries of the known world. Thus began the day, a day that would forever alter the course of history. As Kaya prepared to lead her people into the embrace of the unknown, the primal dawn whispered of trials and triumphs yet to come, its soft light belying the storm that would soon challenge the very fabric of existence. The quiet majesty of the plateau was abruptly fractured as the sky itself seemed to tremble. What began as a serene blue canopy turned ominous, as dark shapes emerged like phantom silhouettes against the dying vestiges of twilight. High above, where ancient legends once spoke of celestial visitors, a fleet of alien vessels descended with an otherworldly grace, their forms sleek and alien, an unyielding reminder that this world was about to be irrevocably changed. A low, humming sound vibrated through the air, resonating in the bones of the earth and stirring the ancient spirits of the land. As the colossal ships pierced the atmosphere, their engines glowed with a spectral blue light, casting long, eerie shadows across the rugged terrain. The once familiar whispers of wind and bird now shared space with an unsettling mechanical rhythm, a prelude to the storm that was to come. Kaya, who had been attuned to the gentle language of nature, felt a chill crawl down her spine as she watched the sky darken. In that moment, the ancient tales of her ancestors, stories of celestial beings and fateful encounters, suddenly seemed all too real. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and awe, for she knew instinctively that these were not benign visitors, but harbingers of a profound upheaval. On the deck of one of the massive craft, Zarvok, the austere emperor of the alien empire, surveyed the barren wilderness with eyes that reflected both calculated determination and a hint of curiosity. His visage, chiseled by centuries of imperial rule, betrayed not a single emotion as he orchestrated the initial deployment of his legions. With deliberate precision, landing crafts detached from the motherships, descending like falling stars onto the plateau, a land untouched by the meticulous hands of his empire, yet rich in an untamed, raw beauty that commanded respect. The ground trembled as the alien legions began their descent. The quiet murmur of primitive life was replaced by the rhythmic thud of metallic boots and the hiss of advanced weaponry powering up. The stark contrast between the alien technology and the ancient Earth was as jarring as it was breathtaking. A collision of epochs where the cold, calculated lines of machinery met the warm, chaotic pulse of nature. Amid the emerging chaos, Kaya's eyes narrowed with fierce determination. She gathered her people with the urgency of one who senses the approach of an unyielding storm. Every instinct screamed that this invasion was not merely an assault on their land, but a challenge to the very essence of their existence. A challenge that would demand courage, wisdom, and an unbreakable will to survive. As the first alien soldiers touched the soil, the silence of the plateau was replaced by a cacophony of sounds. The clashing of ancient tools against futuristic armor, the cries of the startled and the brave, and the unspoken realization that the timeless dance of nature was now entangled with the relentless advance of a civilization from beyond the stars. In this moment of profound transformation, the heavens and the earth converged in a dramatic display of fate. The descending shadows of the alien armada signified more than a mere invasion. They heralded the beginning of a conflict that would forever alter the course of history, a moment when the ancient and the futuristic collided, and the very essence of existence trembled under the weight of impending change. The tranquility of the plateau was obliterated by the ferocity of battle. As the first clash rang out, the ancient earth trembled under the force of a conflict that seemed to span millennia. The soft, rhythmic pulse of nature was shattered by the cacophony of war, a stark collision between the raw instinct of early humans and the calculated might of an alien empire. Kaya led her people with a fierce determination that belied the simplicity of their tools. With a deft flick of her hand, she signaled the ambush, a well-practiced maneuver honed through generations of survival. Hidden among the rocky outcrops and dense underbrush, her warriors emerged like specters, their cries echoing across the rugged terrain. They struck swiftly, their primitive spears and arrows meeting the cold, unyielding armor of the invaders. The alien soldiers, clad in shimmering metallic suits and armed with devices that emitted piercing beams of light, advanced in disciplined ranks. Their movements were unervingly precise, a dance of technology and strategy that contrasted sharply with the instinct-driven chaos of the human defenders. Yet, in the midst of the calculated assault, an undercurrent of uncertainty began to ripple through their ranks, an inexplicable dissonance that seemed to undermine the Emperor's flawless design. High above the tumult, Zarvok observed the skirmish with an emotion he rarely allowed himself. His eyes, cold and piercing, flicked between the valiant charge of the human warriors and the methodical advance of his soldiers. There was a moment, a fleeting glimpse in the chaos, when he caught sight of Kaya. Her presence, fierce and unyielding, stirred something long dormant within him. As she moved with both the grace of a protector and the ferocity of a warrior, her every action spoke of a profound connection to this ancient land, a connection that defied the logic of conquest. The battle raged with a violent intensity, the clashing of primitive weaponry against futuristic armaments creating a symphony of disarray. The humans fought with the urgency of those defending their very soul, a life built upon sacred rituals and a deep-rooted bond with nature. Each arrow loosed, every spear hurled, carried with it not just the intent to strike, but the weight of centuries of heritage and hope. In the midst of the melee, the alien technology unveiled its terrifying brilliance. Energy shields flared with blinding light, and plasma beams seared through the air, leaving trails of sizzling fire in their wake. Yet, no matter how formidable these weapons seemed, the ingenuity of the primitive fighters shone through. They exploited the rugged landscape to their advantage, using the terrain as a living, breathing shield against the onslaught of their superior foes. The collision of these two worlds was not merely a physical confrontation, it was a meeting of souls from vastly different epochs. As the battle unfolded, whispered exchanges in the language of survival and resistance cut through the noise. Shouts of defiance and the guttural roars of determination filled the air, each one a testament to the unyielding spirit of the ancient defenders. Amid the fray, Zarvok's thoughts swirled with an unfamiliar introspection. The sight of Kaya, unbowed and defiant, ignited a spark of doubt within him. Her raw, elemental power stirred memories of a time when strength was measured not only by technology and order, but by a deep, almost primal connection to life itself. Even as his soldiers maintained their relentless advance, an inner conflict began to undermine his certainty, a realization that the conquest of this land might demand a price far steeper than he had ever anticipated. As dusk began to paint the sky with hues of crimson and violet, the battlefield became a canvas of contrasting destinies. The echoes of battle blended with the soft murmurs of the wind, a haunting reminder that even in the midst of chaos, nature remained the eternal witness to the cycles of conflict and redemption. The clash of worlds had only just begun, and its outcome would ripple through the annals of history, reshaping the destinies of both the ancient and the alien. As the day deepened, the plateau transformed into a raging crucible of fire and fury. The initial clashes had given way to a relentless barrage of skirmishes, where every heartbeat pulsed with the rhythm of impending doom and defiance. The air vibrated with the cries of warriors and the echoing boom of alien energy weapons, a haunting duet that underscored the clash of two disparate worlds. Kaya moved like a spirit of the wild, her resolve unshaken even as the landscape around her erupted in chaos. Amid the billowing smoke and sparks of plasma fire, she marshaled her people with fierce clarity. Her voice rose above the cacophony, a rallying cry that stirred both courage and urgency. With every command, she directed her warriors into positions carved from the natural contours of the land, barricades of fallen logs and rocky outcrops that served as both sanctuary and strategic vantage points. On the alien side, the legions advanced with an almost clinical precision. Their energy shields shimmered as they absorbed the ferocity of the tribal arrows and spears. Yet, as the relentless tide of human resistance surged forward, a subtle but unmistakable discord began to weave its way through their ranks. Zarvok, watching the unfolding carnage from his command platform, felt the first tremors of internal conflict. The efficiency of his troops, the cold logic of their assault, it all clashed with the raw, unyielding spirit of the invaders below. The battlefield became a living tapestry of fire and movement. Alien plasma beams cut through the air, leaving trails of molten light that traced arcs of destruction over the scarred earth. In response, the humans unleashed their own elemental fury. Arrows ignited by hastily smudged resins and spears tipped with flint struck true, their trajectories guided by instinct and an intimate knowledge of the land. The collision of these forces created a spectral dance of light and shadow, where every explosion was both an end and a beginning, a violent, brilliant spark in the saga of survival. Amid the maelstrom, moments of startling clarity emerged. In one such instance, Kaya led a small band of warriors to flank an alien outpost perched precariously on a ridge. Their silent approach, honed through generations of living in harmony with nature, was in stark contrast to the mechanical precision of the invaders. With a sudden, decisive burst of energy, they overwhelmed the outpost, the explosion of energy and fury marking a symbolic victory, a reminder that the human spirit could not be so easily subdued. Yet, as the flames of conflict surged higher, Zarvok's own doubts intensified. In between the strategic orders and the cold calculus of warfare, flashes of emotion flickered in his gaze. The devastation wrought by his own forces began to paint a different picture, a landscape where every scorched tree and shattered stone echoed the unintended cost of conquest. In these brief, unguarded moments, he questioned the wisdom of his empire's relentless pursuit, feeling the first stirrings of regret as the alien fires consumed both enemy and ally alike. The relentless pace of battle showed no signs of abating, with each skirmish igniting new fires of conflict that spread like wild infernos across the ancient ground. In this crucible of violence, the primal instincts of humanity and the advanced might of alien technology intermingled, forging a conflict that was as much about survival as it was about the awakening of conscience. Every clash, every burst of flame and light, deepened the chasm between conquest and compassion, a chasm that would eventually demand a reckoning from both sides. Thus, amid the swirling chaos of flames and the din of clashing worlds, the seeds of transformation were sown. In the heart of battle, where the fires of conflict burned brightest, the characters on both sides began to see that every act of war carried the weight of irreversible change, an inevitability that promised to reshape the destinies of all who dared to stand in its path. In a lull between the clashes, when the crimson light of dusk softened the edges of chaos, a fragile silence fell over a secluded ridge. Amid the debris of a recently abandoned skirmish, Kaya and a handful of her warriors found a moment's respite, gathering near the remnants of a shattered shelter. The air was heavy with the acrid scent of burnt wood and alien fuel, yet it also carried an almost sacred quiet, a pause in the relentless storm of battle. Kaya, her face streaked with grime and determination, leaned against a time-worn stone. Her eyes, reflecting both the raw pain of loss and an unyielding hope, scanned the horizon as if seeking answers hidden within the twilight. In that quiet, her thoughts drifted to the legends of her ancestors, the whispered promises that nature and spirit could mend even the deepest of wounds. Far above, in a metallic observation post perched on a ridge that overlooked the battlefield, Zarvok wrestled with the dissonance within him. The cool, calculated commander was unaccustomed to the discord of his own conscience. But as he observed the unyielding human spirit through the lens of advanced optics, an unsettling realization crept upon him. The conquest was exacting a toll that neither he nor his empire had anticipated. The stillness of the moment was broken by the sound of approaching footsteps, both deliberate and hesitant. Kaya sensed a presence, and, instinctively, her hand moved to the hilt of her spear. Yet, when she turned, her gaze met the sight of a lone figure, separated from the alien ranks. Clad in the muted hues of his uniform, Zarvok stepped forward with a measured, almost tentative stride, his expression unreadable beneath the gleam of his advanced visor. For a long, suspended moment, neither spoke. The air between them was thick with unspoken words and shared histories, of battles fought, of lives lost, and of destinies unwittingly entwined. Finally, Zarvok's voice, low and resonant, cut through the silence. "Your defiance, it burns brighter than any weapon we wield," he said, his tone carrying an unexpected mix of admiration and sorrow. His words, though measured, were imbued with the weight of regret that had been steadily building in the recesses of his mind. Kaya's grip on her spear softened, though her eyes remained wary. "And your empire, forged in the fires of conquest, now casts shadows even upon its own heart," she replied, her voice both a challenge and a lament. Her words carried the timbre of generations, a reminder of a time when every life was sacred, when the earth itself was a mother to all who dwelled upon it. They stood together in that space where enemy lines blurred, the battlefield's fury momentarily held at bay by the power of raw, unfiltered truth. Zarvok's gaze faltered, betraying a vulnerability that his rigid training had long suppressed. "I commanded this invasion believing in the supremacy of our technology, the inevitability of our destiny," he murmured. "Yet now, witnessing the fierceness of your spirit, I question if our pursuit of progress was worth the cost of such beauty and life." Kaya's eyes softened, reflecting not triumph but empathy, a quiet understanding that reached across the divide of worlds. "Your words speak of a change, a stirring in the heart of an empire built on the tyranny of ambition. Tell me, Zarvok, do you see that even in the darkest of times, there is a chance for redemption?" she asked, her tone gentle yet insistent. For a heartbeat, the din of distant conflict receded, leaving only the echo of their conversation. "I do," he admitted, his voice low and weighted with regret. "Every fallen tree, every shattered stone, they speak of lives that could have been cherished instead of erased. I fear that in our quest for dominion, we have lost more than we intended, lost our way, and perhaps lost ourselves. In that exchange, the battlefield seemed to transform from a stage of unyielding conflict to a realm of introspection and possibility. The dialogue between Kaya and Zarvok wove a tapestry of doubt and hope, each word a thread binding them in a shared recognition of their collective fate. The scars of war, etched deeply in the land and in their hearts, bore witness to a fundamental truth: that even the most unyielding empires could crumble when faced with the unassailable power of conscience. As the last light of day surrendered to the encroaching twilight, both warriors stood at the precipice of transformation. Their voices, once instruments of command and defiance, had become messengers of a nascent peace, a tentative promise that the flames of war might one day yield to the soft glow of redemption. The tension on the plateau had reached a fever pitch, and as the sun crept toward its zenith, the final confrontation loomed like a dark specter over both worlds. The earth itself seemed to pulse in anticipation, a living witness to the impending clash between the timeless spirit of nature and the relentless force of technological might. Amid the chaos, Kaya rallied her people with an unwavering determination. Her heart pounded like a tribal drumbeat, each pulse echoing the ancient rhythms of survival. With every breath, she could feel the weight of her ancestors urging her to stand firm against the tide of invaders. The fierce light of the afternoon cast long, dramatic shadows over the rugged landscape, turning every rock and fallen tree into a silent sentinel of a battle that would test the very soul of her people. Across the scarred battleground, the alien forces advanced in a formidable formation. Their energy shields shone with a spectral luminescence, deflecting the primitive but fervent assaults launched by Kaya's warriors. The air crackled with the violent energy of plasma beams that seared the sky, and each explosion that rocked the earth sent tremors through both the ground and the hearts of those engaged in the conflict. In the thick of the melee, Kaya's strategic brilliance shone through. She had led her people through ambushes and narrow escapes, using the natural contours of the plateau to mask their movements and create deadly traps. Now, she orchestrated her forces into a unified front, determined to exploit every crevice of the terrain. The human defenders moved with the raw, unyielding power of nature itself, swift, unpredictable, and profoundly resilient. High above the fray, in a command post carved out of the rugged hillside, Zarvok surveyed the unfolding battle. His eyes, once cold and calculating, now flickered with the turbulent interplay of duty and dawning regret. The sight of Kaya, a lone beacon of indomitable spirit, stirred memories and emotions he had long suppressed. He could no longer ignore the possibility that his empire's mission was built on a foundation of irreversible destruction. As the battle escalated, fate intertwined the destinies of both sides. A critical moment arrived when Kaya led a daring incursion into the heart of the enemy formation. With a blend of instinct and careful planning, she pressed forward into the alien lines, her spear gleaming under the burning sun. The clash of her weapon against advanced armor rang out, a poignant reminder of the stark contrast between the raw power of a warrior steeped in tradition and the cold precision of an empire forged by centuries of conquest. In that decisive instant, the battlefield seemed to hold its breath. The collision of ancient valor and futuristic might became a swirling vortex of sound and fury. The roar of alien engines and the clamor of human battle cries blended into a single, overwhelming surge, a storm that threatened to engulf both worlds in its violent embrace. In this maelstrom, every life, every moment, balanced on a knife's edge. It was during this peak of chaos that Zarvok's internal struggle reached its climax. Amid the roar of combat, a profound silence fell over him as he witnessed the ferocity and unyielding resolve of Kaya. In her eyes, he saw the embodiment of a spirit that refused to be extinguished, a spirit that resonated with the ancient pulse of the land. For the first time, he hesitated, questioning the very nature of conquest and the cost of his empire's ambition. The clash that followed was not merely a contest of strength, but a convergence of ideologies. Kaya's every strike was a testament to the enduring power of a people who lived in harmony with nature, while Zarvok's measured counterattacks revealed the advanced might of a civilization built on order and precision. As the battle raged on, the very balance of the world teetered on the brink, poised between the destructive fervor of imperial conquest and the timeless resilience of life itself. The sound of battle merged with the whispers of the wind, as if the plateau itself was speaking, lamenting the devastation, yet also hinting at the possibility of renewal. In that crucial moment, it became clear that this battle, the ultimate test of wills, was not simply about victory or defeat. It was a reckoning that would determine the future of both a primitive world and an empire that had never before questioned its path. With the skies burning bright and the earth trembling beneath their feet, Kaya and Zarvok found themselves at the epicenter of a transformative storm, a storm that would either restore balance or plunge both realms into an abyss of unending strife. As twilight yielded to the somber hues of night, the battlefield lay cloaked in an eerie stillness, a stark contrast to the relentless chaos that had defined the day. The fires of conflict had subsided to glowing embers scattered across the scarred earth, each flicker a silent eulogy for what had been lost. Amid the ruins, the cost of war revealed itself not only in shattered weapons and crumbling fortifications, but in the deep, gnawing sorrow etched on the faces of both conqueror and defender. Kaya moved through the aftermath with measured steps, her heart heavy with the memories of fallen kin and the echo of battle cries that still haunted the night. She knelt beside a small clearing where the land, though battered, seemed to whisper a promise of rebirth. Here, amidst the tangled roots of ancient trees, she and her people gathered their strength, tending to wounds, comforting the grieving, and slowly piecing together a shattered existence. The air, thick with the acrid scent of smoldering remains, was also alive with a fragile hope, the promise that from devastation, renewal could emerge. High above, on a rocky outcrop where the remnants of an alien command post jutted from the terrain, Zarvok stood in silent contemplation. The relentless din of battle had faded into a haunting silence that left little room for denial. His eyes, once steeled by the certainty of conquest, now glistened with regret and introspection. The towering structures of his empire's technology, symbols of power and control, now served as bitter reminders of the collateral damage wrought by his ambition. Each flickering light and every shadow cast upon the ravaged land whispered the truth. The invasion had not only scarred the planet, but it had also marred his soul. In this profound stillness, Zarvok's inner conflict roared louder than any weapon. He wandered among the remnants of his fallen soldiers, witnessing firsthand the unintended devastation of his orders. The once proud alien forces, now subdued and questioning, began to lower their weapons. Their mechanical precision had given way to hesitant murmurs of remorse, a collective realization that the pursuit of progress had exacted an unbearable human and moral toll. A soft, almost imperceptible breeze stirred the dust, carrying with it voices of the departed and the quiet lament of the earth. It was as if the world itself was mourning the choices made in the heat of ambition. Zarvok found himself drawn to a broken monolith, a relic of his empire's reach that now lay half-buried in the soil. Touching its cool, rough surface, he felt a profound kinship with the battered landscape, each imperfection mirroring his own faltering resolve. Later that night, under a canopy of countless stars, Zarvok sought out Kaya once more. The clearing where she had been tending to her people became their meeting place, a neutral ground where the scars of battle and the weight of regret converged. In the muted glow of a dying fire, their eyes met, each reflecting the desolation of their shared past and the glimmer of an uncertain future. "I see now," Zarvok confessed in a voice that trembled with vulnerability, "that the path of conquest has left us both bereft of what truly matters. This land, with all its wild, unyielding beauty, deserved a different fate. And so did we." Kaya regarded him with a mixture of guarded caution and quiet empathy. "Our losses are many, and the price of war is etched in every stone and scar," she replied softly. "Yet, even in the weight of regret, there is a chance to remember what binds us, not as enemies, but as custodians of a fragile, shared world." Their words, simple yet laden with unspoken understanding, wove a tentative bridge over the chasm of past transgressions. In that moment, as the night deepened around them, the battlefield transformed from a theater of destruction into a sacred space of reckoning and hope. The cost of ambition, though steep, had unveiled the possibility of redemption, a chance to mend not only the shattered earth, but also the fractured souls that had waged war. In the stillness that followed, both Kaya and Zarvok acknowledged the immutable truth. Regret could be the seed of change, a silent vow that the horrors of the past would not dictate the future. And as the embers of war glowed faintly against the darkness, the weight of regret began to lift, paving the way for a fragile, yet profound, reconciliation. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the battered plateau began to stir with the quiet promise of renewal. The scars of yesterday's battle, etched deeply into the earth, now glowed softly beneath the tender caress of a rising sun. In the wake of destruction, nature herself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, coaxing life from the charred remnants of war. Kaya emerged from her makeshift shelter, a circle of reclaimed stone and earth, her eyes reflecting both the resilience of her people and the tender hope of a new beginning. Around her, survivors gathered in solemn silence, their faces lined with sorrow yet illuminated by a spark of determination. They worked together to clear debris, mend shattered dwellings, and nurture the fragile shoots of green that dared to break through the scorched soil. Each act of rebuilding was an affirmation of their belief that life could triumph even after the deepest wounds. On a nearby ridge, Zarvok surveyed the transformed landscape from a vantage that once symbolized his dominion. The alien command post now lay in ruins, a monument not to conquest, but to the devastating cost of ambition. The once imperious ruler felt the weight of his past decisions, and in that reflection, he found an unexpected clarity. His empire's formidable technology had failed to erase the immutable power of nature, nor had it silenced the universal cry for reconciliation. With a deliberate, almost reverent pace, he descended from the ridge, his armored steps softened by the humbling realization that redemption was within reach. In the clearing where the two worlds had collided, Kaya and Zarvok met one final time. The tension that had long separated them had, over the course of conflict and shared loss, given way to an understanding as raw and vital as the land they both now cherished. Their eyes met with the weight of their past transgressions and the cautious optimism of those ready to forge a different future. "We have both witnessed the cost of our ambitions," Kaya said quietly, her voice carrying the strength of generations. "Now, it is time to heal, to restore what was broken, not just in the earth, but in our hearts." Zarvok nodded, his expression softened by regret and a burgeoning hope. "The empire I commanded has learned that power, when wielded without compassion, is a burden that destroys as much as it conquers. I now seek to atone, to rebuild not on the foundations of domination, but on the principles of respect for life and the land." In that sacred moment, the dividing lines between conqueror and defender blurred, replaced by a mutual commitment to nurture a future where the echoes of war could finally give way to the harmonious cadence of renewal. As the sun ascended higher, its radiant light wove through the trees and across the plateau, stitching together the torn fabric of a world that had nearly been lost. The new day was a testament to the enduring resilience of nature and the indomitable spirit of those who call it home. A promise that from the ashes of conflict, a fresh chapter of hope and unity could arise, forever altering the course of destiny.